this next instalment of our roundtable on the quality of advice review recommendations through a life insurance lens, the three advisors in the room share their frustrations with all of the difficulties associated with delivering life insurance advice, whether that relates to commercial proposition of risk commissions as they stand at the moment, or the underwriting complexities associated with onboarding new clients. They share some very interesting thoughts and ideas which we hope will have value for you.
Trish, talking to you and your millennial clients, what's your take on the retention of risk commissions and at the levels mandated?
So when I started financial advice, I started at 110 and have watched it come down through the 6.5 years I've been an advisor. I don't really have much of an opinion on this, the 60-20 split so much. I'm happy that life insurance commissions have been kept. One of the big things is that because we work exclusively with millennials, everyone needs insurance. They all have mortgages. They're all, possibly starting families or having families. I do notice that.
And do they take it, your clients?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, large majority. Although we are certainly noticing the people that are currently members are certainly constantly coming back and saying this is too expensive, we need to do something else. One of the big problems that we're finding is that for millennials, especially, everyone's been through the pandemic, nobody has a clean medical history. So every single insurance application almost has something come back and we need it to be amended. So then that adds to the huge cost that our practice faces, because, and especially when you add the compliance burden on top of that, it's not as simple as me talking to my member and saying, hey, we talked about mental health, we talked about your shoulder, we knew that was going to come up, the insurers come back, they've given you some exclusions, we have to have this huge documentation process around that, which costs more time, which costs more energy, which stops us from meeting as many new members as possible, and we get paid the same.
But you're building a picture of the upfront cost of delivering that advice.
Yeah, it's not something that as an advisor I necessarily think for the money that we get is cost effective, certainly. So I do think probably those upfront premiums are too low. And then when we think about the ongoing premiums, because everyone's getting their pay increases, they're taking on debt, they're having new children, we are very regularly changing their insurance to go up, whether we are taking advantage of those not having to do underwriting and only increasing it by a certain amount, figuring out how we can get their insurance increasing, talking to them about their health and really diving into their health dilemmas, seeing if anything's different, if we can get that mental health exclusion taken off. It's a huge body of work for millennials.
What would you like to see? What's fair and reasonable?
Well, I don't think I have an answer for that. I certainly think, yes, keep commissions, possibly taking it up to 80-10 or 80-20, something like that. But I would like to make sure that the insurance piece remains affordable, because otherwise we're really hitting this point where the people who have money can be protected if something goes wrong. And then the people that, to your point, I think it was Sarah, the people who are going to end up on Centrelink, on disability pension, where they could have had insurance and stayed out of that system, they're no longer going to be able to, because they say, I just can't afford it anymore.
Okay.
So it's a challenge.
Okay, so there's the cost of the premiums, but to what extent would cutting the red tape, would actually genuinely reducing expenses when you're delivering life insurance advice, that part of your advice proposition, go some way to ameliorate the current commission cuts?
Oh, absolutely. Look, anything we can do to remove the red tape would allow us to be able to give advice faster to more people, which would help consumers and help us as a business to be able to continue to help more consumers.
And that's going to happen in your view?
I'm a skeptic with the red tape because, as I said previously, I think that we're going to continue to make changes, and we're not going to continue to see the big, complete restructure that we need under this current environment. I mean, I'm really confident that I am about this, but I just don't. I don't know whether anyone is really willing to say, let's stop. Let's just say, what does the consumer want, and work our way back from that, and just cut everything out and start from scratch.
Okay.
Which would be ideal.
Again, more conversation to be had.
More conversation to be had.
Thanks, Trish. Over to you, Dan. What's your take? What's your perspective?
Oh well, I'd just first and foremost be referencing Chris and Sarah's comments here. Firstly, Chris, more options to allow consumers to choose how they want to receive their advice. That's obvious that we need that, and commissions serve that purpose. So therefore, too, Sarah, thanks to you and the associations for already lobbying and help to see that it's stayed in place. I think they first and foremost need to be addressed. I actually would push back. I would say there was one benefit of LIF, and that was mandating insurers to keep the same commission levels. I think whilst we always...
That was the one positive.
Exactly.
It was something we talked about many years ago.
So that's
I
the
felt
one
they always should have been the same.
Correct, and they always should be.
One benefit, I absolutely...
Definitely. So that helps aid sceptical clients' opinions as to acting in their best interest, etc., etc. So there's no doubt that should
But it doesn't remove the conflicted remuneration narrative, because the more premium, the higher the sum insured, the higher the commission still. So there's that level of...
Sure, but I think if I can find a way to serve the $1,500 a year premium, I'm going to be writing a lot more of them than I am now. And I think we've touched on that with the first bullet point today. So I don't really have a lot more to say other than we were at 80-20, and I've always written hybrid my whole life, and I, amongst my peers, have sort of spoken ad nauseum to them about whether that's sustainable, should that be your preferred arrangement, and not to get into solution mode, it's far more complex than that. But I suspect if you did a straw poll, Peter, is 80-20 sustainable? Yes. However, what I would like to see is a more robust claims REM option.
Yeah.
And so I call my ongoing fee my claims management fee, but given the amount of work that's involved in a claim for me, I've managed more than $24 million worth of claims over the last 2 decades. I would like to see insurers play a bigger part in, frankly, the role that we play in getting that claim paid for clients. And I think this quite separates Chris's, your point, around the different approaches and ways in which you can access your protection package. And I think it's really not addressed enough. I know we go a reasonable way of highlighting the differences between retail advised claims versus direct claims, etc., and the outcomes they fit. But I think there's more to unpack in that, and the role that the advisor plays at claim time, which, face it, is the rubber, when the rubber hits the road, needs to be far more rewarded. So in an ideal world, if you wanted solution mode out of me, Peter, I'd say 80-20 is sustainable. But should the advisor want to be involved at claim time, the REM should be a lot greater than the typical 3 or 4K financial planning fee, which is inbuilt into a lot of policies.
Okay, I'm incredibly mindful of time. We're not going to get through all the conversation documented here today, and we're going to come to you in a minute, Amy, but I'd just like to drill down a little bit on this claims management fee idea or notion that you have. Can you explain that in a little bit more detail, how you would see that working?
Well, on average, I spend, depending on the claim, but somewhere between 12 and 16 hours per claim, on average. Yeah. That includes me going to their, wherever they are, often in hospital, sadly, spending time with the surviving spouse, or certainly the spouse of the ill or injured individual, everything to do with managing the claim from a REM perspective, meeting with the chartered accountant who talked about everything. Like I could write you a dissertation on this, Peter. But it is on average that. And so if you break that down to the life office financial planning fee of typically $3,000, you can do the math on my hourly rate there.
Who pays it?
Well, the life office should pay it, and it should be a minimum of $6,600. It'll get more advisors involved at the claim.
Yeah.
And you'll not have, dare I say, a certain cohort of professional service sticking their nose into this stuff. The advisor that put the risk on the book should be the advisor that pays the claim and be involved in that. And it baffles me that there's not more done in that space.
As opposed to the servicing advisor.
Well, no, if the servicing advisor is playing a role in the claim, that's fine. But in an ideal world, the person that sat with the family and talked to them about their personal protection package should be the person driving the claim when the rubber hits the road.
All right, Nathan and Jeff, I might just pose that question to you when it comes to your turn, but we'll start off with you and we'll come to you, Amy, to complete the advice perspective before going to Jeff and Nathan have a chat about that.
Thank you, Dan, for bringing that up, because that was also what I wanted to add on from what Wayne stated, also Trish and yourself, in regards to the work that we have to do to service clients from an insurance perspective. We just recently did a bit of a cost to serve audit, and when I sat down with Davina, who works closely with me, she basically manages all the admin in the business. That's where the roadblocks are with retaining insurance, just the inquiries throughout the year. And when we've got somebody who all of a sudden has a life change within that 2-year period, our job is more to retain that than actually go, okay, well, let's change things around. We can't do that. We've had to look at how we're going to make this a service that we can, from a commercial point of view, maintain. But then also there's that fine line of how we can serve these clients that really need it. As Dan put, if he could actually serve more people with $1,500 premiums up front, then if it's possible, it'll be done. But in a business, most likely it isn't, because there's so much more to it than just going, all right, I've just done a quote comparison, we've done a needs analysis, here you are on your way. So the underwriting process is also quite full on. But as Dan pointed out, the big issue we've got now is the end game where we're doing claims.
Yep.
I spent a lot of time last year with one income protection policy. I had a terminal illness claim. That terminal illness claim was 4 months of work, and there was no. I had to actually work out. They said, look, we were successful. We got the payment, but it was a bit of a process because one of the doctors sort of decided, because he had cancer and the treatment she was offering, he decided not to. But all of a sudden, the life company had decided that could affect the claim in terms of if he took that, would he be terminally ill? So it opened a can of worms and delayed the whole process.
So this is the real world.
This is the real world. This is what we're dealing with. And so I'm now consulting with a lawyer. I'm looking at the policy that's changed from 2005 to now, right? So this policy, the policy wording, the product has changed over these years as well.
Sure.
So what are we looking at? Are we looking at the last PDS? Are we looking at this PDS? But so there's so much work involved. So it had us as a business look at, well, how are we going to do this in the future? Do we put a percentage on claims at that point? Or do we work with life insurance companies and actually look at maybe the framework's got to change as well to ensure that that client is getting the service from the advisor and not having some snakes that come in and do a no fee until we succeed, which takes 25% of their claim off their hands at that point,
That's right.
Or 40, there you go. So I stand
message.
corrected.
Got the message. Okay.
So, that's, and now I'm on a TPD claim. It takes so much time.
Understood.
And it's not part of the upfront.
Getting lots of nodding heads in the room.
Yeah, it's not part of the upfront.
On the money.
And when we look at the APRA stats with this, if you're an advised client versus a non-advised client, the outcomes for advised clients are significantly better with regards to both turnaround time successes, and it's been consistent with the APRA claims stuff that's came out over the past 3 to 5 years. So the role that a trusted financial advisor has at the claims stage is invaluable, not just to the client, but also to the life insurance company. Because if you don't have an advisor involved, you're right, there are other professionals that try and get involved other than financial advisors that basically slow down the process for the client and have part of that money that should be going directly to the client going elsewhere.
Okay, and so that's true. That's reinforcing the comments that have been made around the table. But just to complete this conversation, and again, my apologies, it's going to take a little bit of time, and my apologies for putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
What is your take on Dan's suggestion that life companies come to the party in terms of remuneration of advisors at claim time?
Most of them have it already. So when you look at most of the policies, at claim time, there is a financial advice fee in there. But
is that what you're referring to, Dan?
Currently the financial advice fee is if you provide a financial plan, not if you assist with the claim. Have the life insurance companies already funded for this within the policies that they have? In most good policies, the answer is yes. So the question is, do the insurance companies then sit back and say, if you're the advisor that assisted with the claim, then you're entitled to this claims assistance benefit rather than it being a full financial planning benefit where they, in most companies, require a full SOA.
However, that would have been costed already. The number of times the financial plan is delivered would have been costed into that benefit.
Correct.
Would it not?
And that's the thing, is that most of the insurance companies already have that built in. They just call it a financial planning benefit rather than a claims benefit. So it isn't that the insurance companies haven't built this in already. In most policies, it's already there. The question is, how do we provide access to the advisors so they get paid appropriately for this? So is that something the insurance companies can look at? And the answer is, without question, they can look at that because it's already in the document.
My understanding is in the document, unless it's owned by, if it's funded by superannuation, that's completely different.
Correct. So,
sorry, but terminal illness claim under super, then
SIS Act provides an entirely different kettle of fish. And
let's go one issue at a time, shall we?
You're right.
There in the end.
You're absolutely right, because SIS Act basically prohibits that type of payment. So, but when we look at the policies that are outside, whether it be death, TPD, trauma, or income protection, there is normally a financial planning benefit with most of those good policies. And again, whether it's MetLife's or others in the marketplace, but again, it's if you provide a financial plan. And again, there's no reason why that can't be reviewed by the various companies in the marketplace to say, can we actually utilize that as a claims assistance benefit rather than a financial planning benefit?